Sortika, nikispen na save.
Hi, Dr. Churchill.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's great to see you this morning.
Me too. This is Sortika Live Chat, whereby we bring experts who literally give us their points of view to educate the common mwananchi on the basic what's happening on the day-to-day life, especially on the verge on finances. Kindly tell us who you are and what you do, so that people can familiarize themselves for those who don't know you.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Churchill Saoke. I am a lecturer in the governance aspect and also with deep interest in economics and national issues. So it's really a privilege to be part and parcel of this event and just to see what Sortika Kenya is doing in uplifting the life of Kenyans.
Thank you so much. So I'll ask you some few questions, Cynthia, and I would wish that you'll tell us your point of view and give us your insights on the various issues that we have. So how often do you think of saving? Is it never once an year or less, about once a year, weekly or daily?
It's a daily thing.
It's a daily thing for you.
Yes.
So each day you have to think of ways you can save that extra coin for you.
Absolutely. Each and every time that I got to spend my money anywhere, I have to think of how am I saving in it.
Okay, that's nice. So what do you think are the best ways to save money that you can quickly think of?
First of all, whenever you're thinking of saving money, what comes into mind? Saving is like paying yourself. So
yeah, sure.
When you look at saving in terms of paying yourself, then a couple of things come into mind, like investing money in an interest-bearing account, where you're just depositing money and you get interest out of it. You're looking at things like you have, if you're a salaried person, then you check off some money off every month and just have the money getting into your savings account, or even in things like the circles and things like that. So, and there are other aspects of eliminating debts, ensuring that you are operating at minimum debts.
Yeah.
Others relates to the lifestyle, where you look at issues of prioritizing your spending.
That's nice. So what are your thoughts on this statement? Taking advantage of sales, discounts or coupons is a good way to save money. Do you think it's really a good way of saving money?
It can be. It can also be not, in the sense that the sales and the coupons sometimes, especially if they're not restricted, then they can be a good way of you saving money, because then it gives you an opportunity to make decisions. So at the microeconomic level, you can be able to make saving decisions. But in cases where you have them being restricted, then you find yourself, the decision is already made for you. So you might end up actually getting into impulsive buying. So you think that you have used a coupon perhaps to buy something you found in the supermarket, but in real sense, what you have bought is not what you needed.
Yeah, sure.
So it's about decision making. If it is restricted, then you end up realizing that you've gotten into impulsive buying. If it is not restricted, then you might end up making decisions that help you to save.
So maybe there's someone who is listening to us and who literally doesn't understand what you mean by restricted and unrestricted.
So restricted is the point where you find that there are instances where some of these sales are specifically aligned to specific goods. So you are told that, if you want this percentage of discount, then, you have to buy this particular good, or you have to buy this quantity of goods. So you see, in that kind of scenario, then your decision making in terms of the use of your finances or the use of your coupon has been predetermined for you.
Yeah, sure.
So in the long run, you might actually end up making an impulsive decision, even if you are not using your money.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's a good way for those who haven't understood. It's literally for restricted is whereby you have to reach a certain amount so that you can either get that thing on sale, and the converse is for the unrestricted. So yes. Elaborate this statement for people saying spending money is saving money.
You know, spending less money is saving money. It's a very interesting sentiment. Hugely philosophical, but it is never necessarily. And because it's a question of want and need.
Yeah.
When you look at the context of saving, you might think of spending less money in things that you need, and not necessarily on things that you want, and not necessarily the things that you need. So in the long run, you realize that you're actually not saving the money. Like, you see, I want to look at the question of the question of it from the perspective of being what we call frugal. And frugal here, where we look at the means of living life in terms of not living a wasteful life. You can actually spend little money, but in a wasteful manner.
True.
So if you spend little money in a wasteful manner, then you're spending less money but not saving it.
Yeah.
But if you are being frugal, it means that you are spending money in the things that you need and focusing the needs. So that means that you are prioritizing your expenditure to the extent that even if you are spending less, you're spending less on the things that you need and not necessarily on the things that you want.
So to get this clear, on your perspective on savings, is basically one has to prioritize. One has to prioritize their basic needs, and then the wants should come later. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So the last question on the questionnaire part is, what would you invest money? If yes, why? If no, why?
I mean, investing money is important because, you see, when you invest money, it's like saving. You're seeing into the future. You are trying to find ways of just creating future safety nets, economic safety nets for you. You're trying to look at how do you protect yourself from future financial stresses and just avoiding debts and even sometimes you look at it from the perspective of creating a financial legacy. One day you got people or your children or your folks who will want to inherit some of the things that you have, some of your hard-earned money, and they will inherit it through the investments that you have made. And so it helps you in some of those ways. In terms of even at some point you want to consider even doing large purchases, these are things that you can only do if you have money that you can obtain from investments.
So, have you invested your money somewhere?
Yes.
Do you mind telling us where, or nikuita hapo kando, then you tell me more about it? Unaweza niita kando, but there are many ways in which you can be able to invest your money. You can invest your money either in a bank, in terms of just in an interest earning accounts or in shares. You can also invest your money in manufacturing. You can invest your money in agriculture. You can invest your money in even equipment that that are able to help you recoup back profits and just there are a couple of so many ways in which you can be able to invest your money. So meaning the long-term goal for investment is ensuring that it reaches a point in one's life to your money to literally work for you. Exactly.
And you see, many times you find when people begin their careers, you are thinking about looking for a job and and you're focusing on your bills. A time comes when you have overcome your bills and you need to think about the future. And you got money, so perhaps you have money that you now need to make the money make itself, so that you are able to diversify your revenue streams. So in that kind of instance, when you're now not thinking too much beyond your bills, you also need to focus on the future. And by the way, and this thing is just about prioritization. Sometimes it's not even about when you have already finished up your bills. It's even at that point when you are considering even changes of career. There are people who are in their jobs, but then their interests are not necessarily in those jobs. Their interests are in business. And you will realize that many of the things that much of the flourishing that you will undertake is something that you will undertake not in the jobs that you have, but in things that you invest in.
That's well put. Thank you for it. So let's kick back on our discussion. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the financial status in Kenya at this point? What do you think we are? Yeah, what do you think?
First of all, we have to admit that Kenya is a big economy in the region, and it being a big economy in the region, it's been accelerating at a very huge rate, performing extremely well in terms of the macroeconomic level and even the microeconomic level, and the growth in infrastructures and the issues about the opening up of the free primary and secondary schools and the universal health care. So the whole question, when you look at the financial status of Kenya in lieu of some of these developments, it somehow has made Kenya to grow in terms of the budget. We are talking about 3.66 trillion. That is huge. And part of this money, of course, is being obtained from external debts and internal debt in terms of local debting. And this, of course, has made government to also have a lot of issues, because you see a lot of our revenues are going back into debt repayments. And so because we cannot be able to finance some of these projects, some of these infrastructural projects, some of these educational programs and healthcare programs, so we have to look outside. So the debt dependence is huge on us. That is one of our biggest shortfalls. The other issues is around, there's a lot of huge expenditures on the questions around the recurrent expenditures, where the recurrent expenditures here are things that are non-income generating. So we have so much money going into payments of workers and other things like that. So it's generally the status of our country, but there are other problems that are associated with this, apart from over expenditures on recurrent expenditures, which are related with of course, the dependency ratios, especially from the elderlies and the high employment rates, which have also affected our financial status.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, from your perspective, has the leadership or the political status in Kenya affected our financial status?
Sort of, because you see, the leadership is the one that makes the decisions.
Yeah,
they make policy decisions, they make the political decisions, they make the economic and the fiscal decisions. So, in one way, we must admit that there have been significant political and socioeconomic reforms, which, of course, has contributed hugely to economic growth, this economic growth that we are talking about. And the challenges around inequalities, the economic inequalities, have been attributed to the many things, and some of it are unemployment, which I have mentioned. And the political leadership, as we have said, is the one that is engaged in decision making, and some of it has resulted into misuse of resources, because you have some of these mega projects that have been undertaken. There has been issues have been raised about over budgeting in terms of the bill of quantities, the BOQs, and this has resulted hugely to bringing the financial stress to the country.
Well, yeah, that's true. I agree with some of your points, especially because you see the leadership of these countries, whereby they're the ones who make the laws for us, they're the ones who make the decision. So in case they make a wrong decision, that will literally affect us as the common mwananchi. So in your own opinion, the pandemic, the COVID-19, has it really affected our economy, and to what extent?
Hugely. When you look at the COVID-19 shock, first of all, we have to look at it. It has hugely affected the supply chain, and especially the supply chain in terms of the imports and the exports. We were in a scenarios where at some point the importation was actually cut, and some of the goods that we were hugely importing from outside, we could not be able to obtain them.
Yeah.
And equally, those that we were exporting were also hugely affected. So it really brought a lot of external and domestic shocks in terms of the imports and the exports.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the growth, there was a minimal growth, especially within the agricultural sector, because at some point within the COVID-19 period,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of focus on food. People were only they only needed food. And so there was a lot of focus on agriculture, and you could see even the government intervention. They only allowed the trucks that were carrying food to come from the rural areas into the urban areas. But when you look at other sectors like manufacturing, other sectors like tourism, other sectors like education,
Mm-hmm.
they were hugely affected. The recreational facilities, these ones were hugely affected because the hotels were closed down, people lost their jobs, the national revenues were reduced. And today now the government has had now to find ways of getting more taxes, of more revenues by taxing people more. So the cost of living has, as a result, gone extremely
Very
high.
high.
Yes.
Very, very high, because the common man is struggling out here because of
Yes.
the pandemic. I think people should really take care and safe and look for ventures. I think with the pandemic, people have
Exactly.
been taught how to literally save their money, to have cushion money in case of anything.
Yes.
Because most
Yes.
of us didn't know this would happen, or that this would
Exactly.
literally happen to our country.
And Astin, when it is something that I think came at the right time, because even for at the individual level and at the family level and also at the corporate level, it has made all these institutions more conscious that there is need to create safety nets, there is need to create safeguards, there is need to create cushioning mechanisms that can help in case there are pandemics. You remember the time that we ever had huge pandemics was in the early 1990s. That is in 1919. That is when we had the Spanish flu, which hit the world hugely. So for that long time, we have never had this in quite many generations have never seen this kind of stuff. Yeah.
But I think it has taught us a lot, and we have actually learned a lot from it. Yeah?
Absolutely.
So it is
Absolutely.
without doubt that there are some of the political, like you have already told us, how the political status literally affect our finances. So there are social and economic factors that literally affect our finances. Let's start with the economic factors that you think people should literally watch out and learn from them.
Yes. Well, at the national level, we look at issues around foreign debt burden. It's huge, and there is need for fiscal mechanism of policymakers rethinking of how do we reduce the debt burden, because a lot of our monies is going back to the debt repayment. There are questions around the huge long-term investments, some of which are perceived not to have immediate income generation, and they are being looked at in terms of being able to recoup back the incapitation perhaps after 30 or 20 years. And so we are seeing, like, for example, when you look at investment on the standard gauge railways, especially that is going to Naivasha, this is something that will open Naivasha, for example, in the next 20 years or so.
Yeah.
But when you look at it as is now, it is an investment that people are not seeing its impact now. So there are also other issues around the misuse of public resources, just hiking so much the quotations, and the projects are being the projects are being overquoted. And also there are also issues around huge percentage of the annual revenue being used on recurrent expenditures, and which is just going into the pockets of people. And lastly, there are also other issues around the money is being used in unproductive sectors of the economy. That is now at the national scale. At the individual scale, at the microeconomic level, we look at some of the factors, some of it now scaling down in terms of the over expenditures. You're expending on things that you don't really on the things that you don't really need when you have money the money you have is really limited. There are things around people not really investing their money. You're not investing your money in areas that can bring you back, that can bring profit back to you. There are also things that are much more literacy level in terms of financial literacy. And how do you like, for example, deal with your finances, not necessarily for the purposes of saving or for the purposes of investing, but how do you maneuver around with your finances in ways that are in a more better steward way. So that financial literacy is very significant even at the individual level and at the small and scale enterprises. I can tell you I have seen this with many small scale enterprises or the micro enterprises. The people who get a lot of money, the mechanics, the Juakali sector, they get a lot of money, but they do not know how to use this money.
Yeah, that's true.
You find somebody is able to get even something like about 6,000 shillings a day. When you look at that times 30 in a month, that is someone who is actually earning around 180,000. But then when you look at the way he is living, he's actually living below 50,000 shillings because he does not know how to use the money. He is like getting 6,000 shillings, and the 6,000 shillings he's getting, it's being used like on that day that is obtained.
So akona 6,000 now, siku ikiisha pesa, the next day zero.
Ameitumia yote. So like the next day is another day. So he lives every day that comes.
So people still live in one day at a time.
Absolutely. Yet in real sense, when he sees somebody driving his car, or he sees somebody having his very nice, is invested somewhere, he does not imagine that this person is actually earning the same amount of money as him or her.
So it's all
so
about...
the finance.
Sorry?
So it's all about the financial literacy that really needed to be undertaken at the individual level, especially amongst those people who really do not have basic some level of post-secondary or post-primary education.
So we should literally, our aim, one of our objectives actually in this Sortika live chat is to educate the common mwananchi, to make them or to drive them to financial independence and to financial freedom. Because we did an analysis and we found that the average Kenyan and whole year can spend actually 1 million shillings. And if you can ask them to be accountable for their money, they say, pesa iko. So they end up going for debt, they end up living hand to hand. Well, I think it's the high time people should literally learn about finances, because even 100 shillings can make a difference in your finances.
Absolutely. And the other thing that is very significant in this is that, of course, the reign of the media and the reign of the technology has also brought a lot of liquidities, in the sense that you have 10 million in your bank. The 10 million you can be able to access it on your mobile phone or on your computer through mobile banking or internet banking. And you see, the companies have actually made you be able to access your money very easily.
Yeah.
And that is good and also bad, in the sense that it has made money extremely liquid. In the sense that it can be able to expedite your decisions into impulsive buying. And I can tell you for sure, for a long time, I decided never to get buying credits using my mobile phone, because I realized that I could be able to buy like this. You actually realize actually using a lot of your money. And if you do the monthly expenditures of the amount of money that you've used, you will be amazed. You'll be amazed, and you'll ask yourself, where did all this money go to? So that this whole question of being able to make decisions on the gadget within your hands, if you are not careful, you can actually overspend.
So it's all about self-discipline.
Exactly.
But you see, that is one of the reasons why we have the Sortika application, whereby we have the mechanism for passive savings, because we realize most people want to spend, and we are a spending nation. And that's why we have, like, our slogan is Nikki Spend na Save. So you find that each and every time they spend, we try as much as possible to prompt them. We prompt them to save even that 50 bob shillings that is usually now credited to their account, then distributed to their goals in the Sortika, because we find people like spending, especially now with the, like, you have told us about the mobile apps, you know. The bank, whereby if I want to withdraw money from my bank instantly, within 2 minutes, even seconds, I already have my money on, and then I spend, then I remember I have more. Well, I think that should literally, but at the end of the day, it's all about self-discipline. I think if you don't have that initiative in you, it will be really hard for one to even save even that 10 shillings.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of the remedies you'd recommend now to the political, social, and economic factors that are affecting our financial status? Because you have clearly and explained to us some of the problems or the social, economic, and political factors that are affecting the finances of the common man. So, you, Dr. Churchill, you have been in the field for long, you have seen it, and you have learned, you have a lot of experience. So tell the young generation, tell them what are the remedies that you'd recommend, what would you tell us to work on or to literally do, so that we can attain that financial independence and that financial freedom that each and everyone wants at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Justin. I think let me answer that question in two give it a two-pronged approach. The first is just to give some of the key interventions that at the government level is important to do, and then I'll get into the individual level. One is that, Kenya has a huge potential in terms of bringing the success of African story, and it's because we got a hugely youthful population. We really have a dynamic private sector. We have an extremely skilled workforce that that is able to build and has been able to build a lot of things in the region. The improved infrastructure that we have, and even our constitution makes us really very strong in this region. But then, in view of this, government really must look at how do we address issues that we have highlighted about, poverty, inequality, skill gap, between market requirements and curriculum, education, and just some interventions that would help bring some of these socio-economic challenges that our country is facing. When I look at this, the key thing is that we must find a way of creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem that promotes and supports innovation, creativity, productivity amongst the Kenyan people. It's very important. And what I mean is that we must invest our money as a country in building the productive sectors of the economy. Because when we build the productive sectors of the economy, then is when we are able to cascade at the individual level. At the individual level, it is significant for each and every person to make key decisions that makes them be productive in the country. Young people, for example, must be able to come up with innovative ways. You see, like you are now the app, the Sortika. Like, for example, now what you guys have come up with the Sortika. These are innovative mechanisms that helps to support young people, helps to support entrepreneurs. And these are the kind of stuff that we need. We need to have interventions that support these creativities at both corporate, both government, and both at the individual level. The other thing is that the young people also need to look at how to spend to save. Spend on the things that save.
Yeah.
Don't just spend to save, because you have to look at the future. Don't just get into spending because you see other people spend. Do things because you know why you're doing them, and focus on to the future. Think of yourself in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, especially when you have retired. I can tell you, and I'm sure where you're working, in your pay slip, they must be showing you when you are retiring. The reason why they do that is so that you know that even however young you are, Astin, you are going to retire at some point.
Yeah, sure.
So you must be prepared in your mind that you are going to retire. How are you going to survive when you retire? You must be able to prepare yourself for retirement the moment you get into you receiving your first salary, or you begin receiving your first monies from wherever you get it from. So the culture of spending wisely must be something that will be embedded within young people. And the other last thing that I want to highlight, which is important, is that we must learn to live within our means. We must learn to live within our means, and this is something that I think cuts across not just young people but across everyone. We must learn to live within our means. It is in learning to live within our means that we are even able to safeguard ourselves from financial stresses, and even help ourselves from getting into mental problems that emerge when people get through financial stresses.
So it's all about you live within your means, you avoid peer pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah. You call yourself a Kamokonji, that community, you have come from. My background is not the same as someone else's background, and I should literally think about the future.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's say there are people who work, different people work. There are people who work from 8 to 5. Yeah. There are people who work on daily basis. They get their payment every single day. So for the ones who get their money every single day, what advice would you give them? What would you really tell them?
The guys who get their money on every day, they need to get into, one of the things that I say is you must have a relationship with a financial institution. You need to have a relationship with a financial institution. This could be a bank, this could be through your institution like Sortika, Kenya, where you have funds for you to save. You must ensure that every day you get your money, pay yourself first.
So the rule is pay yourself first. Even for anyone who gets money, regardless of when they get their money, they should have a strategy, or their first priority should paying yourself first. Because they say the best investment you can make is investing in your own self, right?
Exactly. So and I can tell you that this is something that you inculcate as a culture. If you can't be able to inculcate the culture of saving 1 shilling, I can tell you that when you will get 1 million shillings, you will never save it.
So if you have that 100 shillings and you can't even put 1 bob, even though you become a millionaire, you will never save.
You'll never save it.
So, do you think? Okay, you have learned a little bit about our application, Sortika, and do you think, on your own understanding or in your own opinion, yes, I have saved money. Yes. Do you think it is advisable, once you have saved, you save that regardless of the amount of money that you have saving, should it be directed to a specific goal? Your goal can be a retirement, an emergency fund, maybe a goal should be maybe a birthday, to long-term or short-term goals, depending on what you are saving towards.
You have to save for something. In the ultimate end, if you're not saving for anything, then even stop saving. Just eat the money. you have to save for something. And it is important that whatever you're saving for should be something that will be able to generate money for you. Of course, within your budgeting, you'll be able to budget for many things. You can, within your budget, you'll budget for a holiday, you'll budget for other things. But whatever you're budgeting for should not be necessarily what you're saving for. So if you're saving for a holiday, that is just saving for a holiday. When the holiday comes, you go for that holiday. But when you are saving, you need to save looking at your life holistically, assuming that your job goes, what happens? Assuming your job goes, what happens? Then this money will help you. Assuming your job goes, the amount of money you have saved perhaps will help you establish some business that will be an alternative income generating.
Yeah,
You could be saving to establish a business. That is something that makes sense. So the idea is that don't just save to use the money in a terminal end. That you save the money to use the money to get into something that will help you to diversify your revenue streams.
That is well kept. Thank you so much. Actually, I think I've actually already answered the last question, whereby what advice would you literally give to the common wananchi? What recommendations would you give them? So, in a nutshell, what you've said is precisely when you want to save for something, and make sure that what you need to save for something, and ultimate goal should be a long-term one, whereby in case you do something, in case you're laid off work, in case something happens to your finances, your life will not come to an end. You'll have some money kept here. You can just maybe start a small business, do something in your money that can uplift you as an individual, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Churchill Saoke. So at the last part, the closing remarks, what did you tell the common wananchi? What did you tell someone who is listening to us right now and they have issues on finances, or they already have good finances, they have savings? What would you really tell these people?
I think I will just say that we need to invest. The country needs investments, and the investments, when you think of investments, you look at investments from all cadre, from as investing as low as 1 shilling to investing as high as 3 trillion shillings. If each and every person within this country is able to have creative mind and creative innovations and creative ideas, and we invest in these ideas, then I can tell you that this country will become great, because we will be able to generate through these ideas, generate businesses and business empires that will create jobs for our economy and even expand our GDP. This is how countries become great. Countries become great by being able to invest in ideas. And I think that it is important. It is important for companies. It's good what your company is doing. I mean, you're helping to build the literacy of people on build financial literacy, which is very significant. It's also important for other companies to continue, investing in some of these initiatives and invest in the creative minds that can build this country greater. I can assure you that it is also incumbent on systems to develop business models that make some of these innovations flourish. When you look at the developed countries, they have been able to build entrepreneurial ecosystems that help companies, startups to grow and thrive and become multi-billion companies. That's the only way that a country will become greater. And holistically, the people become great. Holistically, the nation becomes greater in itself.
It's directly proportional to each other.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I'm really honored that you've spared your time to come and talk to us. I've actually learned a lot, and I'm very sure the ones who are listening to us will learn and get something. At the end of the day, they will learn something from you. So thank you so much, Dr. Churchill Saoke.
Thank you very much. I appreciate also for the time, and also for Sortika for the great work you're doing.
Thank you. Nikki Spend Nasib.
Asante.
Yeah. Have yourself a lovely day. And
You too.
we'll meet some other time, and hizo investments lazima utichanue.
Asante. Sasa ndo kuchanua.
Aya, ni sawa. Kwa heri.
Thank you.
Sortika, nikispen na save.